All right, I have sent you out some problems on activity-based costing. There's roughly 30 multiple choice questions you can look up. I'm going to go over four problems on activity-based costing that probably should cover any problem you're likely to see on the exam too. So this first one here, we've got a research firm provides on-site interviews at local malls and retail outlets, and the basic unit of service is a completed marketing research survey. All telemarketing personnel, mostly college students, are paid by the hour. Supervisory labor is salaried. Okay, and what they're asking us to do is take each of these costs. Um, there's eight of them here, and classify them in either unit level, batch level, customer level, facility level, or product level. So those are the five different levels of categories that you can have in activity based costing. Now, let me say, first of all, as we go through this particular type of problem where you're classifying costs into unit, batch, product level, facility, or customer, um, can be a little bit fuzzy depending on how much information you're given and what assumptions that you make. And I try to keep that in mind when I give a question of this nature, that it could be this or that, depending on some assumptions. And there's at least one in here that I'll point out. But we've got the hourly labor costs of 100 employees to compete. Um, the 44,000 surveys. So number one is hourly labor. Hourly, can't spell, labor. And that's going to be a unit level cost. That one's pretty clear because the hourly labor is to do the individual survey. And then we have the costs of phone calls to verify the surveys were taken. So number two is the phone calls. So I would say that is also a unit that is taken. Number three, um, the preparation of script for surveys. Um, I would say that is a product cost because your product here, the basic unit of service, is a completed marketing survey. So we're only going to do one script for each survey, and each one is a separate product. So I would do that. I would call that a product. Um, Training uh, survey takers by training department to conduct surveys for specific customers. I would also say that that is a product. Um, Product cost because we're going to train each time we have a new product. Reimbursement for employees for mileage at 30 cents a mile. This is the one that I think could be debatable. I would say on the mileage would be a batch level because you're going to go to the mall. It says, let's see, local malls and retail outlets. So we're going to go to the mall, and we're probably, if it's a retail survey like I'm thinking here, this is where I say the assumptions are important. If it's a retail survey, we're getting customers' opinion, then we're not going to go to the mall and just do one survey. We're going to have a series of surveys. We're going to grab as many people as we can in our allotted time, 2, 3, 4 hours, and take the surveys. On the other hand, if we are driving to a mall, driving to a retail store, and the only thing we're doing is taking like the manager's opinion on something, then that could the mileage could in fact be a unit level. But I'm going to go with batch because I think we're doing more than one. That's where I say if you have more information, it could become a little bit clearer as to what it is. The occupancy costs, I'm going to say that is facility level. Number 7, 5 supervisors. That would be facility level. And then human resources, I would also say facility level. So in this case, we don't have any customer level. We have unit, we have batch, we have product, we have facility. We don't have any customer level in this particular problem. Okay. All right. Number 85, EA company manufactures and distributes 2 products, A and K. Overhead costs are currently allocated using the number of units produced as the allocation base. The controllers recommended changing to an activity-based costing system, and she's given the following information on this. So our total amount is 520,000. So 1,000. That's our total overhead. So we're going to start off with just a traditional job order costing plan. What is the total overhead allocated to each product? And it's based on the number of units. So we have 160 and 100,000 would be 260,000, and that would be $2 each. What is the total overhead allocated to each product? So A would be 160,000 times 2 is 320,000, and product K would be 100,000 times 2 would be 200,000, and you check that and it's 520,000 total. So each one, there's your answer for that. What is the overhead cost per unit under the current system? Well, that's what we did up here. So B equals 2, what we've done up there. Then C is going to be what would be the total overhead allocated to each product under ABC costing. So what we do now on this is we have to get a cost driver. We have the number of setups, the number of parts, and so for setups equals 164,000. Divided by 16 and 24 would be 40. Would be $4,100 for each setup. The parts would be 96,000 divided by 160. 112 plus 48 is 160. and that would be $600 per part. On material handling, and then the packaging is the based on the number of units, and that would be $260,000 divided by the 260,000 units, and so that would be $1 per unit. Okay, so then what would be the total overhead allocated to each product? So A would equal 16 times 4,100 would be 112 times 600, and 160,000 times 1. So 16 times 4,100 is 65,600. 112 times 600 is 67,200, and then 160,000. So we get 292,800. And for B, you would get 24 times 4,100. You would get 48 times 600. And you would get 100,000 times 1. That's the easy one, right? 48 times 600 would be 28,800, and 24 would be 98,400. Would be 227,200. Add those two together. That's a 9. So 227,200 plus 292,800 would be 520,000. Now, this should always come out to your total amount of overhead. If it does, it doesn't mean you're right, but if it doesn't, it does mean you're wrong. One of those type of deals. And then finally, for D, what would the overhead cost per unit be under ABC costing? So D is going to be, for A, is going to equal 292,800 divided by 160,000. Would be $1.83 as opposed to our $2 before. And B would equal 272,200 divided by 100,000 equals $2.72.2. Okay. And that would be your answer for that one. All right, number 88. A medical medical equipment manufacturer produces two major products. One is plastic disposable syringe with 2 parts per unit. The other is a high-tech pump used for hospital procedures involving heart patients. The device has 200 parts. Both products require direct labor, which is split 50-50 between the two products. The company has identified various cost pools, including one that is material handling costs. The costs in this pool include wages, employee benefits, and the work of the workers receiving materials, inspecting materials, storing materials, and moving materials to workstations, depreciation, maintenance of forklift trucks, and cost of supplies and other related costs. Cost information related to the production process appears below. Units produced: 100,000 syringes, 50,000 pumps, direct labor hours, 10,000. Total material handling cost, $2 million. Total direct labor cost is 400,000. Determine the total material handling costs and total cost per unit that would be assigned to syringes and pumps if the material handling costs are based on direct labor hours. Okay, so the direct labor hours is going to be equal, so both syringe and pump get the same amount. Material handling cost then for A would be $2 million. And that would be divided by 20,000 hours. Equals $100. Oops. Be $100 in material handling costs, and cost per unit, we get 400,000 divided by 20,000 is $20 a unit. So this is the material handling cost. The cost per unit would be the 100 plus the 20, or $120 per unit. Okay, determine the total material handling costs and cost per unit that would be assigned to syringes and pumps if material handling costs are allocated based on the number of parts using activity-based driver. Okay, so B, we have we didn't do the total material handling cost. We didn't need the cost per unit here on this. This was the wrong cost per unit. Cost per unit they want. This is the cost per unit is the 100. The total material handling costs would be 100 times 10,000 would be 1 million. Okay, there we go. And then B, we've got the same thing. We've got the 2 million. And this time it has 2 parts versus 200 parts. So 2 million divided by 202,000 is, we're going to say 9,901. I'm going to round that up, 0.99. Go ahead and round that up. 9,901 per unit, or per that, times 200 is 1,980,198. That's the total costs. Syringes, on the other hand, would get 9,901 times 2. would be 19,802. Total cost per unit would then be divided by 10,000. Would be $1.98. And here we get 1,980,198 divided by 10,000. We get $198.02. So that would be the per unit. They'd ask which would be the more appropriate. Well, obviously the pumps take up a lot more of the time of the material handling, so the second way is better. Okay, the last one. We've got Rachel's Pet Corporation manufactures 2 models of grooming stations, a standard and a deluxe. The following activity and cost information has been compiled. So we've got number of setups. Standard is 3, deluxe is 7. Number of components is 30 and 50. Overhead costs $40,000 for setups, $120,000 for components. Assume a traditional costing system applies the $160,000 of overhead based on direct labor hours. What is the amount of overhead to the standard model? What is the amount of overhead to the deluxe model? So we've got so A would be 160,000 divided by 800 direct labor hours, right? We've got 650 and 150 is 800. And so 160 divided by 800, I think is 20 or 200. Is 200. And so for the standard, we've got 200 times 650 equals 130,000. And for the deluxe, we've got 200 times 150 is 30,000. And that does add up to the 160. So it gives us a pretty good idea we're correct. Okay, B, what is the amount of overhead assigned? Okay, we did that. So standard, deluxe, A and B. So this is B. Okay. So now we've got C, assume an activity based costing system. The number of setups and number of components are identified as activity-based cost drivers for overhead. What is the total amount of overhead assigned to the standard models? Well, we've got 40,000 in setups divided by 10 setups, the 7 and 3, is going to be 4,000 per setup. And then the 120,000 divided by the number of components is 80. 30 and 50 is going to be $1,500 each. So the standard is going to be 3 times 4,000 is 12,000. And 30 times 1,500 is 45,000, is 57,000 for the standard, and then for the deluxe, for the deluxe, we're going to have 7 times 4,000 is 28,000. And we will have 50 times 1,500 is 75,000. Be 103,000. 103.57 is 160. So we're probably on the right track there. All right. So that's pretty much activity-based costing. Remember that the first step is no different than what you do in job order costing, where you get the allocation rate. It's just that now you have more than one allocation rate. You're doing it by activity instead of either by single plant-wide rate or departmental rate. All right. So good luck on your exam. Let me know if you have any questions.